So, hi there. I am Dr. Rosenna Bakari, your favorite empowerment expert. We are here on the Healing Challenge 2022. I have my co-host, Dr. Stephanie Singleton. We are all always ready to rock and roll with you on this Healing Challenge. So, Dr. Stephanie, say hello to the people and let's get this show on the road today.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the healing journey. Woo, this is quite the journey, quite the ride. So glad you are here with us on this ride. Thank you so much. Share. Send it out to everybody that you know, even people you don't like, because somebody needs to hear this, okay? So, and don't forget to check us out and join the challenge, www.healingchallenge2022.com, healingchallenge2022.com. And without further ado, we're just going to get into it. This month, April, is Nobody is Normal, so just be yourself. And we hear that term a lot, normal. That's not normal. This over here is not normal, blah, blah, blah. So, Dr. Bakari, the question today of the hour is, what is normal? And is there even such a thing as being, quote, normal?
Hey there, Doc. Well, that's a good question. Good place to start. The answer may surprise some people. Normal does exist. There is such thing as being normal. The thing is, though, it's a mathematical concept. In reality, normal is a mathematical concept. And so it's the understanding that 68% of any phenomena will fall under what we call the bell curve, right? The bell curve is like this bell-shaped mathematical curve, right? That tells us the probability of things happening. So you all remember your stats course, right? Where we're looking at probability. And so that famous curve that we use is called the bell curve, where we know any phenomena that's on a normal curve, that means 68% of that experience will fall under that curve. So literally, when we talk about being normal or what's normal, we're really talking about 68%. So here's the fun part. So this idea of being normal, we put some misunderstandings to it. So for example, we start to believe that normal means everybody. Normal has never meant everyone. Normal has never intended to mean everyone. Normal only means the majority of the people or the majority of things in that phenomenon. We know if we look at the weather in San Diego, the normal temperature for the winter might be 60 degrees or 65 degrees, but in January, there may be an 80-degree day, right? That still falls under normal, right? Now, here's the thing, because what we're saying is what's normal is only supposed to happen somewhere around 68% of the time. So is 80 degrees normal? Yeah, it's normal because it falls on the whole continuum, but it's not normal in that it doesn't fall under that. It's not the same as that 68%. Does that make sense? So normal, when we talk about the normal phenomenon, it goes, the whole spectrum is normal because it's a normal curve. The curve part just tells us where the data piles up the most, not all the time. So hopefully that starts to clarify some stuff. And so really it's our language. That's a technical issue. That's a technical answer, I know. The reason it's important is because the conversation is a technical one. Really, it's about the language that we have adopted or adapted that we have used to oppress people and oppress ourselves by believing that there is some standard that we should live up to that we're never even meant to live up to. Only 68% of the people should be expected to live up to that standard. And so I give you the technical explanation and hope that we can appreciate why it's not that important for us to try to fit in everywhere all the time. That, in fact, is not normal.
No, that, you know, and I'm glad that you put it that way, because that, like you said, this is like a mathematical concept, because when we hear so somebody is not normal, let's just put it that way, or this is not normal, we're thinking that something innately is wrong with us, when it's really somebody's made this calculation, this mathematical calculation, and said, well, this percentage, this larger percentage of people phenomenon happens at this place, you know, and that's just that. It's not that something is, that we're abnormal, you know, that something is wrong with us.
Right, we
And so
confuse
I
the word.
appreciate that.
Yeah, we confuse the word normal with natural as well. So even if it's the 68%, normal does not make it natural. So it was normal to have slaves. Is that natural? It was normal for people to force 12-year-old girls to get married. Is that natural? So just because something is normal also doesn't mean that it's natural. Just because something is not normal does not mean it's not natural, right? So we have to be careful about when we're using the term normal and the expectations that we place on people and ourselves. Because when we start trying to do what is normal, we also often find ourselves on the wrong side of peace, happiness, and joy, trying to be normal, right? People hide their sexuality because someone told them they were not normal. People had many experiences because someone told them it wasn't normal, right? So we find ourselves on the other side of peace, happiness, and joy, trying to pretend like or trying to be normal, which is not natural, right? So we deny ourselves our natural instincts by trying to be normal.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that's the truth, because sometimes, like what you brought up with slavery and 12-year-old girls, sometimes what's normal today is not normal next year, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so that changes as well. So it's not this static thing, something is normal. I remember back in the day, you know, you never wanted to get caught talking to yourself, you know, because you go, oh, something wrong with him, this person is dangerous, this whatever. And now, you know, people be talking to themselves. They say, yeah, I talk to myself. Yeah, you know, I talk to myself. And it's, you know, it's a joke, because it was something, you know, a lot of us were doing, but you didn't want to do that like in
Right.
public or be thinking aloud or something, because, you know, people were like, oh no, what's wrong with you? Should we call somebody? So yeah, it was, you know, and that's really, yeah, that's really a good point as well. And of course, we're not talking about making behaviors that are destructive and harmful normal. We're just talking about, you know.
Right. And the other thing that you mentioned, kind of jokingly, but it's really important, is that normal changes, right? Like what used to be abnormal is now accepted as normal, and vice versa, such as slavery. The piece that's real important, since we're talking about it and understanding it as a mathematical concept, the most important part of that concept is that in statistics, we don't use the word 100%, because we must absolutely always leave the possibility of being nullified, of being wrong, of being changed, right? So if you look on your little medicine bottles or other things, it will tell you that something is 99.99% effective. You will not see something technical that says it's 100% effective. We don't say that in research. We don't say that. We don't put that language in because we understand the value of leaving the possibility for change, for our understandings to develop and evolve. So that's a real important point. So nothing we don't consider 100% right. We don't do that. We don't even use the language. So, yeah.
In this chapter, you talk also a lot about our impulses to keep up with the Joneses, right? So what is that about? What makes us want to do that?
So it's normal, meaning what most people do, not what all people do. It is normal and instinctual and has evolutionary incentive that we fit in. If you look in nature, whether you're looking at some animals, some under the sea and on land and in the sky, some animals, many animals have changes to take place that allow them to camouflage themselves with the environment for safety, right? They may change colors, they may change shapes, right? They may do certain things that allow them to fit in with the environment. Human beings are no different. We do it socially, right? The way that we dress, speak, wear our hair, and then the clubs that we engage in, the jobs we do. And so we're often seeking to fit in because it gives us a sense of safety. That's natural and normal. But keep in mind, that doesn't mean it's 100%, 68%. So if we understand it from that point, we can take some of the pressure off of ourselves from trying to be normal all the time at everything and these things that don't make us happy. When being normal makes us happy, we should take solace in that. That is great. But when we are trying to be this sense of normal and we're miserable trying to fit in, that's when we need to grab on to the understanding that we're not meant to be. When we don't fall in that 68% of entities that exist under the bell curve. And that's okay. We can find where else we are along the whole continuum. There's a whole continuum we can fall on, right? So we don't have to pressure ourselves trying to fit into one space. So it makes sense that we want to fit in, feel normal, it's safe, but it's not the only way to exist, right? Because here's the other piece of that. I know this is sounding really scientific today, but at the end of the day, like, we're just human beings having this experience and existing in the world. One of the things that we are required to have as human beings from an evolutionary perspective as well is diversity. So on the one hand, we understand normalcy, right? We calculate it mathematically or statistically in research, but the other end of that is that anything that has the most diversity in it, in terms of creatures and how long we exist in the world, the more diversity we have, the more robust is our species. So keep that in mind too. We will not survive nearly as long if we all do the same thing. Diversity is survival. So that's important to keep in mind. So every time you stray from this normal, know that you are helping to move humanity along the line, because we need diversity to exist.
It's interesting because it makes me think of when people see, like, for instance, I know a couple who they don't want children, and people in their family will say, well, basically, like, that's not normal. Like, you're supposed to, have children. How selfish of you to only think of, I don't know, whatever, your careers or whatever it is, for you not to, or for a lot of single women, people, yeah. Well, that's not normal. When are you going to get a husband? It's these type of things. And if people say, well, I'm okay, I'm okay with being single, or I'm okay with, whatever it is, people would be like, well, no, you can't be happy, because it's got to be this. And I think that really puts a tremendous amount of pressure on people. It causes a lot of resentment, amongst people and families, so and then then you get people who by trying to fit into that, get into all of these situations or get into relationships just because that's what is expected or considered normal, but they're actually miserable.
Yep.
So my whole thing is to segue into this question. I said all that to segue into this question. Then what is or is there harm in being normal? And that's normal with quotes, right?
Right. Right. So you just stated it, right? Like when we're trying to fit in, then there goes the harm. Or when we're judging other people, then there's the harm. So let's say that you have been sold this bill of goods, right? About what normal is and what a man is or is not supposed to do. And you judge them according to the standards, the normal standards, then you miss what people bring and who they are, because we're judging people according to a norm versus judging people according to their hearts, or even judging people according to what our own needs are, right? And so when we gravitate and cling to this sense of normalcy, and we really should replace the word normal with norms. That would be the most appropriate word. This is the norm, but just because it's the norm doesn't mean it's normal in the sense that this is the way it's supposed to be. And we get that confused intentionally, right? And so, or conveniently. And so when we are trying to be normal, we're not allowing ourselves to be in control of our own life, lifestyle, existence, relationships. It takes the work out of it for us, which makes it easier for some people. Some people would rather be miserable in the easy way than to be happy and work for it, right? Or don't know the difference, I should say. They don't know the difference. And so it's easier if we just go by a template of life, right? And we've seen that on the computer, right? We just pull up a template and fill in the blanks. That makes the work easier, but it often is not the real picture that we wanted to see, right? It will suffice, we'll take it, but if we had a better way to design, if we had more time, if we took more time, if we got more information, that's not what we will create. We wouldn't start with the template, right? We would design exactly what we want. We would design something that represents the beauty that we have, that we carry, these magnificent ideas that we really want to share with the world, but instead we settle for a template, right? That's what normal is. Like, it gives us all the answers so we don't have to look for any, right? That can be an easier life, but it doesn't feel as good, right? Where answers come easy, but they don't land easy on your heart.
Yeah, because I always just think about, like, who gets to decide what is normal? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because a lot of it comes down sometimes to other people's expectations. And I know you've seen it. I've seen this, kids coming to college and they don't really want to be there. They want to do something else. They want to pursue something else.
Yep.
But then they're getting all of this pressure from the society and from the parents, either you do this or, hey, we're not going to support anything else. And so they go along with what they go along with that, but that's not what would be their norm. They would rather be pursuing, something creative, with more creativity. They'd rather be trying to go into business for themselves, whatever it is. And then you have that. I think about a lot of places. I'm thinking a lot now in terms of where I've lived in the Bible Belt, you know, where you had people who were homosexual who had so much pressure that they went and married. You know what I'm saying? They went and married, even though they went and married someone of the opposite sex, even though that's not what they wanted to do, but that's what they were expected. And then in the long run, everybody winds up losing, right? Because at some point, you know, people can't continue to live that life, right? So I think are we talking about just living a lie in terms of what your natural pursuits would be?
Yep. So yeah, if people are not living what comes natural to them, what feels natural to them, then they're fitting in. Now, keep in mind that we all understand that compromises are made in life and priorities have to be formed. The difference is when I make a decision, a conscious decision to follow norm versus I'm following norm because I don't want to make a decision, that's very different. It's very different. So we all have to prioritize and say, okay, I don't really want to go to college, but I can see where if I do this X, Y, and Z, so I may use it to target where I really want to go, because this may be a path that I don't really want to take, but if I take it, I can keep mom happy, I can still get to where I want to go. That's different. But if I say, I don't even want it, but if I just keep following the norm because that's where all my friends are going, that's where my parents expect me to go, I don't even give it a thought as to what I want. I get there and I keep trying to figure out how to make myself happy doing normal things instead of finding out how to make myself happy, period. Right? Yeah. So I have to decide what kind of person I really want to be, a person of conformity or a person of personal power.
Oh, okay. I love that. Whether we're going to be just a person of conformity or personal power. Can there be personal power in conformity at all?
When you choose for the right reason, that's what I'm saying. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can use my personal power to conform. But if I conform, I'm giving up my personal power if I have not consciously used my personal power to conform. Because then it's just the action. Personal power comes first, the action comes second. If I'm not using my personal power, I'm just conforming. There's no power in it. I'm just looking for the next place to where I need to fit in.
Oh, like in other words, I'm going along to get along. Not necessarily. A lot of people, that's their favorite expression. Just go along to get along.
Right.
And you may get along, but the effect on you personally may be very detrimental.
That's right.
If that's not your truth with what you're going along with. Yeah.
Here's a perfect example. We've seen it time and time again. Like when we look at all the cases of sexual assault, the famous cases there, because the other ones don't even get talked about, right? When we looked at the cases of sexual assault, the first thing someone says is, why'd she wait so long to tell? If it was true, why'd they wait so long to tell? Well, because they were conforming, right? Because they chose conformity because that was the easiest route, because not conforming is a living hell, right? And so they conformed in hope that that would somehow end up in their best interest. For whatever reason, they conformed because they needed the money, because they carried too much shame. For whatever reason, they conformed until they couldn't conform anymore. That does not benefit them, right? Versus if I make a conscious decision that I'm gonna conform until I retire, or until I do this, or until that happens, then I might be more empowered in that conformity versus I'm hiding and going with the flow because I want to be in that 68%.
Yes. You know, you wrote something in the healing journey. I don't know. I always, I can't never see, yours comes out nice and clear, and here I'm all blurred. Okay. But then I have my whole background blurred out. So duh. Okay. So on April 11th, rather, you write, where there is a will, there is a way. However, willing is not the same as wanting. Our wants are associated with our minds, our egos, and often they are fleeting. We tend not to work for our desires, we wish for them. Having a will, on the other hand, comes from the heart, not the mind. A will becomes destiny. Working never ceases because you become the will. You build a life around your will. Everything else becomes secondary. Your will becomes more significant than your fears and stronger than your needs. Will is how the underdog wins. So we're talking about in with outside of being normal, it's really about your will, what's associated with your heart.
Yep. Yeah. What is it that you want? What is it that you really desire, as opposed to what is it that you desire from within, not what is it, not versus who are you trying to keep up with? Who are you trying to keep up with? Like, that's the question that many of us are going through life is, I'm trying to be like, and we don't necessarily say it consciously. Sometimes we do, but it's like, oh, that person has a car, I want a car. That person has a house here, I want a house here. And with all the social media stimuli, it's so difficult not to fall down that path, because we're constantly getting in information about all the things that we lack. So many of us are living from a position of lack. We see every day all the things that we lack. Television, social media is always telling us what we lack. So here we are living life from a position of lack and trying to fit in to be normal. And we squeeze ourselves out of our own lives, living a life of the incredible shrinking woman.
Wow, I love that. That's a powerful statement, right? We shrink ourselves out of our own lives, and yeah, that. Oh, wow, yeah. Because even now, as you're talking, and like you already said earlier about how normal is this mathematical concept, and then what you just said now in terms of social media and everything that's coming at us about what we should have, what we should look like, what, you know, all these type of things in order to be normal. And normal is also equated sometimes with being successful and fitting in, is not just a mathematical concept. It's like advertising you know,
Yep.
type of content. Yep. And I don't think a lot of us appreciate how bombarded we are with those messages and how much pressure really comes along with that. And we're doing things and getting things and buying things and living places that, if we really sat and thought about it, like you said, that's not really what we would really choose for ourselves. Are we doing something because this is what our mama wants us to do out there? This is what they expect. You know, and this is a real thing. So, which I'm thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're really saying is that we need to have a come back to Stephanie moment, or come back to Dr. Bakari moment, or come back to Susie moment, or come back to Joe moment, you know, where we just sit down and just say, hey, I'm just going to block all of that out, because a lot of that is window dressing anyway. Especially when you get to social media, because that's carefully curated people carefully curate what they want you to see. That's not
absolutely
right.
Yes.
That's not really the real deal. That's just like the advertisement, right? That's on TV. That's the same thing. But we really need to have these moments, right, where we just come back and say, man, what is it that I want? Because I think sometimes some of us have gotten so far away from that, what we've been, that we don't even remember what it was that we want. So now, how do we come back to ourselves after being so disassociated with our own needs and wants?
So the first thing is understanding that when you stop chasing normal, remember, it's an evolutionary experience as well. So when you stop chasing normal, life can feel real scary. That's normal, right? For at least most of us, right? Life starts to feel real scary. The people who supported you in your life of normalcy are those 68%. They're not going to be there when you give up normal. You'll have at best 32% of your people still there, right? So, and if you only had 3 people, that dwindles it down real low. So having that expectation that when you decide to live your life with what we refer to as transparency and authenticity, and leaning into the vulnerability of letting go of normal, your life will not be the same. It will not be the same, and it will feel scary, right? And so the how do you get there? That's the how as well. You lean into the scary of the vulnerability of having people get more distant from you, of having to take so much more time for yourself and internally, responsibility. What do I really want? What do I really want? And what am I willing to let go of to get it? When you start asking yourself that, it feels very different. Does that mean you spend less time in these organizations, religions, people, relationships? Does that mean that you give up the big house and buy a smaller one so that you can have less financial debt? Like, what's it gonna be? What's it gonna mean? And do you trust the process enough to really get and understand that when you are your most beautiful, authentic self, eventually the universe will start to feed that back to you? But here's the thing. If you say you want something and you're willing to work for it, I've said this before, the universe will require evidence. Saying it is not enough. The universe will require evidence. What are you willing to do to get it? What normal are you willing to let go of? Because as long as everybody's coming along with us, that makes it a whole lot easier. But are we willing to pursue our dreams, our desires, impose our will on the things that we believe will really set our hearts on fire? So how do you get there? With the will to let go of normal.
Yeah, that's work.
It's work.
Yeah,
it's work. Because and especially because it's about you making choices, because a lot of us have benefited greatly from normal, right? There's a lot of benefits that come from normal. But if they're not the benefits that make you sleep well at night, that reduces your anxiety, gives you peace, a lot of us have given up way more than we intended to get what we've gotten from normal. So we've gotten a lot, but we've given up even more. And so that's why it's about the choices that you make and the priorities that you have, right? And how are you willing to shift those?
And I think, and of course, you'll get me straight if I'm not right. But I think it's the first month where, the activity 1, the matter of time, and this was so helpful, where you have people write down. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's on page 6, y'all. You following along, okay? The first thing is list 10 weekly activities that you engage in. For example, cleaning the house, working, exercising, attending worship, caring for children, etc. And the second thing you do is on a scale of 1 to 10, you rank the enjoyment you derive from each activity. And fill in the blank for each activity. When I exercise, I feel blank, right? Or when I blank, and just put in when I, attend worship, whatever it is, I feel, so forth and so on. And number 4 is reflect on your responses throughout the month. And I think what you were talking about in terms of, just getting back to yourself and what you want, this is just such a valuable exercise, because I know when I was doing it, you really be surprised when you have to be really present to, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. And you know what? Yeah, I could do without that. Like, I really don't like doing that. Or this thing here that I just take maybe as a hobby or whatever, I really love doing that. You know what I'm saying? So it really brought me a really clear awareness of what's working for me and what's not, and really helped me align with, okay, what do I really want? Who am I really here?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So y'all better get on it. Y'all better get on it and do this work. We are here, all of us. So many of us to do this work. Okay. I'm telling you, it's not enough to just listen. This is, we really got to go through it, and you're worth it. With every single last one of us are worth this work. Every last single one of us deserve to heal, deserve to feel fulfilled and happy and energetic with the magic of life. Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is important. Okay. So this time always goes so fast. Dr. Bakari, is there anything you would like to say before we close?
You said it all. Thank you. Thank you. It's always a joy to be here with you, Dr. Singleton. Thank you so much for being the hostess with the mostest.
Thank you. Same here to you. I enjoy it. People, www.healingchallenge2022.com. Dr. Bakari, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
See you next month.